with TPP?
No, not me.
You down with TPP?
Oh, no, not me.
You down with TPP?
Oh, no, not me.
You down with TPP?
Oh, no, not me.
You down with TPP?
Oh no, not me!
You down with TPP?
Oh no, not me!
You down with TPP?
Oh no, not me!
You down with TTP?
Oh no, not me!
My name is Jacqueline Luqman. I am a contributing video live streamer to Real Progressives. And actually, I'm just an angry, radical progressive from Southeast DC. How I even got on this podium, I have no idea. I don't know. I'm out here with people like Tim Black and Lee Camp and Tim Canova and Arn Menconi. And I just realized that I am 15 minutes from my house, from our house in the poorest area of this city, where right now there are people and organizations fighting like hell against a local government that's closing down public housing for poor people at alarming rates and advancing gentrification, pushing people out of their homes, kicking people out, boarding up their homes, telling them, oh, you can come back at an adjustable market rate, but the adjustable market rate is for people who make $160,000 a year. This is what is going on in the Washington, D.C., where I and my husband, A.B., live. And where we live, once you go past the Capitol, it's less than 10 miles from the Capitol. We can see the Capitol. Literally, this is not a Sarah Palin joke. We can literally see the Capitol from our neighborhood. So when the progressive movement talks about these big issues like the TPP, which is a freaking disaster for working people, it absolutely is. When the progressive movement talks about big issues like climate change, which is going to be a disaster for all of us. When the progressive movement talks about big issues like getting money out of politics, which we've all seen what the corrupting influence of big corporate money in our, not just federal elections, but our local elections and even for judges and sheriffs too. We've seen what that does. When we go home, we see that there's a part of the destruction of the American life that a lot of progressives don't pay attention to because we're so focused on the big issues. We're not focused on the little local issues, like people like, we were out yesterday with Skyla Poindexter-Moy from Empower DC, a local organization that advocates for poor people who live in public housing. Who fights for poor people who live in public housing? Nobody fights for them. You know why? Because everybody is convinced that their federal taxes are going to those lazy people who don't want to work. So why should we care what the federal government does with their public housing? This is why you need to know that you've been lied to. When we stand in front of progressive politicians or any politicians and we declare Black Lives Matter, what's the first thing we say? What's the first thing you hear? Well, all lives matter. Why can't you say that all lives matter? Blue lives matter. And in order to push back against this narrative, the first response is always to get angry. But here is what you can really do to push back against that narrative. Understand the history. Because see, Black Lives Matter ain't new. The fight for poor people, for advocating for the rights of the poor, the working poor, just the poor. Those of us who just don't make a whole lot of damn money. That fight is not new. But so many of us know so little of the history of the labor movement in this country, of the civil rights movement in this country, and not just the I Have a Dream speech either, y'all. If we understand the history of the fight of marginalized and oppressed people in this country, we would understand that even WikiLeaks ain't new. Because in 1971, a bunch of citizen activists broke into an FBI building and stole some files violating the rights of American citizens who are doing nothing more than trying to advocate for rights for disenfranchised people, that was COINTELPRO.
Right. Right.
COINTELPRO was exposed because a bunch of anti-war hippies broke into a government office, stole some files, and gave the files to the press. So please, don't tell me that anybody has a problem with Julian Assange and what he's doing with WikiLeaks.
He's
I
a
don't
hero.
care if it is the Russians that are involved. The truth is the truth. I repeat what Malcolm X said. I am for the truth. I don't care who tells it. I am for justice. I don't care who is against it. I don't care who is for it. I am for what is right. If we know history, if we understand history, we understand that when we talk about Black Lives Matter, we're not saying that your life doesn't. We're not saying that your life doesn't. We're not even saying that blue lives don't matter. Blue is not actually a life, by the way.
Hey.
What we're saying is that historically, we've been treated in this country as if our lives do not matter. And the history, the record, proves it. And until our lives matter, yours don't. Because here's the truth, ladies and gentlemen. Here is the shocking, terrible truth that a lot of people don't want to hear. And listen, I understand the truth is very scary, especially when it comes to our government. Especially when you understand the power that our government has and how willing they have been to use the full weight of their power against everyday citizens to shut us up. When you realize how willing they have been to do that, it is a terrifying thing. But here is the truth. The reason we are at this moment in history where we all know that our elections are not elections, that our politicians are not elected, they are selected, that there is so much money involved in politics, and that we almost don't have a voice in our elected process, the reason it's this way is because we've believed the lies that we have been told about marginalized people for years, decades. So when our government and our educational system told you that the Black Panther Party was a terrorist organization and they deserved to be infiltrated by the government, what did you do? You believed them. And I can't be mad at you for that, because we all trusted our government.
They killed Fred Hampton. They killed Fred Hampton.
Some of us didn't believe it, and those of us who didn't believe it were labeled what? Radicals, crazy, communists.
Tin hats.
Tinfoil hats. But we're at this moment in history now because we didn't listen to the crazy, wild-haired, liberal, hippie people back then. There are more of us now. We have a more powerful medium now than we had then. And this progressive movement cannot be an exclusive movement where we only pay attention to certain issues at the 30,000-foot level. We can't just pay attention to the TPP. We can't just pay attention to climate change. We can't just pay attention to getting money out of politics. We have to pay attention to the issues at the local level that are going to need our attention on November 9th. Because let me tell you something, on November 9th, over in Southeast DC, those people are still going to need somebody to stand up for them against the DC City Council that's trying to kick them out of their homes. They're still going to need our help. I guarantee you there are people in your towns, in your cities, who will need your help on November 9th. One of the groups of people that we always like to talk about, that so few people talk about, are incarcerated Americans and returning citizens. There is one of the largest prison strikes in the history of this country going on right now. The issue of prison slave labor is enormous. The 13th Amendment still allows for slavery if you are convicted of a crime. So the idea that slavery is abolished in the United States is a lie. I encourage you to go back and read the 13th Amendment of the Constitution. So I have my handsome husband here, who I actually get half of my information from. I'm really not as smart as I think it's him. I'm just the one who talks a lot. He's going to talk to you in a minute about returning citizens.
All right, so let's all give yourself a hand. Wow. For the interest of time, a lot of covered.
Switch mics. That's what I was saying. Hey, we need a mic.
All right, just for the interest of time, I know we covered a lot, but one of the things that I wanted to point out is that we're all gathered here in Washington, D.C. And one of the things that we have to remember is that being residents of this city, we are paying taxes and we don't have any representation. So the fact that we cannot vote, that the fact that we don't have the rights that every other American takes for granted is in itself is an injustice. And that is what we're trying to fight for now. We need statehood because we're not being represented. This country fought a war because it was paying taxes without representation. And one of the things that I wanted to say, and I'll make this quick because I only got a minute, I want to talk about Jill Stein and why I support Jill Stein. Because Jill Stein to me is gangster. When I turned on Democracy Now! When she was at Standing Rock Reservation, and I seen that she went up there and did her little graffiti on the construction equipment, I said, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And the reason why I support Jill Stein, because Jill Stein, she got more gangster than even Bernie Sanders got as far as I'm concerned. Jill Stein was not afraid to publicly say that she supports reparations for African Americans because of the injustice of slavery. No other politician, including Bernie Sanders, would say that. And as an African American myself, and I embody I am America because I am also Native American, I'm African, and I have Irish ancestry. So you ain't gonna get no more American than me. But what I'm saying is the fact that what my wife said is true. Is the fact that in this city right now, we have in Camden, Baltimore, Ferguson, D.C., we have millions of disenfranchised African Americans who Hillary and them are taking for granted by saying that's her firewall. We as progressives, especially those of my white progressive friends, we need to go out into the hood. And we need to let them know that you don't have to be a slave to the Democratic Party. Because I'm 51 years old, and I can tell you right now that I lived most of my life under Democratic regimes, and I can go back to my hometown of Camden, New Jersey, and it still looks the same, even though the administrations have always been Democratic. So right now, we need a revolution. I know my time is up, but thank you for listening. Jill Stein, 2016.